everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a fun Valentine's Day thing that everybody's doing out there, and it's called hashtag Decked Crush. Decks we have a thing for. And this is my VR to that. And I figured what a perfect time. Like it's only a couple days before Valentine's Day, and my schedule opened up enough for me to be able to sit down and do this with you guys. So without further ado, let's jump into it and see what decks I was able to put into these prompts. For the most part, I knew exactly like what deck I was going to put in and where, but there were a couple of the prompts that were a little tricky for me because if a deck isn't working for me or isn't resonating with me, I don't hold on to it for very long. So some of the prompts were a little tricky, but I was able to find a deck that fit into that prompt for me eventually, right? Took me a little bit, but that's okay. The first one is the Fling, a deck with which you had a short period of wild times. I had no problems finding this one. This right here is the Third Eye Arcana. It is a not well known indie deck from Montreal, and it is weird, wild, and crazy, but in all the right ways. It's hot, got tons of nudity in it. It's sexy. It's a good read. It does a great job. Tons of nudity. It's just the one that the Fling that I'll keep going back to. When I got this deck, it showed up in the beginning of July, and we had just moved here, and all of my tarot decks were still packed away in the storage container. So this was like literally the only one that I had available to me. We spent our hot summer nights sitting together out underneath a tree with this old table that was left here. And I just sat and hung out with this deck and did a bunch of readings. And the funny thing was, is when we first moved out here, the power would go out, and I mean like go out for hours. And there was just not much to do, right? I live in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to do. Me and this deck, we had some wild times that summer, and we spent a lot of time together, and I created this bond with it that I don't know, when the crickets start singing and the katydids start, buzzing up in the trees and that humid, thick summer air moves in, I think about this deck. It's so creative and strange, like in all the right ways. Like a fling, it just hits all the right spots. I love this deck. It is so much fun, and it's so different. So that is the Fling, and that is the Third Eye Arcana. The next prompt is Puppy Love, a deck with which you were infatuated but couldn't make a long-term commitment to. So I had a little bit of a hard time with this one. However, I did find one that I feel fits into this for me. And I can't even believe that it's this deck, but it's my second edition Stunning Tarot. The reason why I put this deck in this prompt is because I was obsessed with getting this deck. As soon as I discovered it and I found it, I was like, I've got to have that deck. And I originally wanted the third edition, but it wasn't available. The second was still on the creator's website. So I ended up just getting this one because I figured it's better to have this than to not have it at all, right? Because I really wanted to experience it and I really wanted to spend time with it. It's mermaids and Egyptian things and Arabian Nights and witchy stuff. And I mean, so how can that not? That's like pretty much me in a nutshell, right? So I figured that this was going to be like marriage material or happily ever after prompt material, right? But it ended up not being that way. I actually have a really hard time not resonating with this deck, but the pictures matching the associations that I have with the numbers or the suits or the court cards. It makes me work and it makes me work hard for a reading. And because of that, I tend to just not use it as much as I originally thought I was going to. I love it. I love everything about it. I even bought the new fourth edition that's coming out because I don't know, I love it, but I'm having a hard time using it right now. And it might be one of those things where like it's just not time for this deck to be, working with me right now. And maybe it will in the future. And maybe it's just because I didn't put forward the time and effort to get to know the deck on a deeper level. And maybe that will be something that I do later on down the road when I have more time free up. So unfortunately, this deck is in this prompt because of my difficulties with the images and the way that I see, the associations should be with the suits or the cards or the courts. Even like this, like here, the moon, I have a hard time finding like the clarity, you know, the needing illumination, things not being as they seem. I have a really hard time finding like the way that I read the moon in this image. And I think that's where I'm at with it. But don't get me wrong, this is an amazing deck and I'm glad it's in my collection. And I still go to it from time to time, but it's definitely not a heavy user the way that I thought it was going to be. So that is Puppy Love, and that is the Stunning Tarot. The next prompt is Friends with Benefits, a deck you care about but sometimes get extremely passionate for. Okay, so that is definitely Tarot de Carlotides. I love this little deck, and I care a lot about it. I love it. Sometimes I talk too much about it to like my other tarot people that I hang out with or spend time with, and I feel bad, but not really because I absolutely love this little deck. I love its cardstock. It's so like springy and like the texture of it. I don't know. Like I don't have any decks in my collection that has this kind of cardstock. And I love how narrow the cards are and how skinny they are. And I don't know, I gush over this thing. I love it so much. Um, I wanted it forever, and I just kept passing it up, and I kept grabbing other decks instead. And finally, the one day, I was like, no, that's it. I am buying this deck. And I got it, and I love it. I like its colors. I think that it's got a sense of humor. Some of the images make me laugh, and there's some of them are so beautiful. But like there is straightforward. There is one card in here where it's a bunch of horses running around with like unicorns tied to their head, right? It makes me laugh every time I see it because I'm just like, that is so funny. And I think it's the 10 of cups where it's the caviar with the champagne, and it always makes me think of caviar, caviar wishes and champagne dreams, and like it makes me laugh. It kills me. I love the backs. The backs are gorgeous. I mean, this deck is just amazing. I love so much about it. I just did a video in which I paired it. I don't know. I love it. This is such a funny deck. And it's got such different stuff going on in it. Like it's got Victorian stuff, it's got folklore stuff in it, like a little bit of medieval stuff happening, and then like really weird, crazy little pictures. And then something like this, where like there's a unicorn and a dog tethered to trees. It's but the trees are their tails. It's so, I don't know, it's crazy. It makes me laugh. And this deck has what they call the David Bowie card. I don't know if we'll end up seeing it because I'm just grabbing chunks. But there's a card in here that straight up looks like David Bowie. And I love David Bowie. I'm a big fan. I saw that card. I was like, no way. It's got a David Bowie in it. But yeah, I do. I care so much about this card, and I do. I get a little passionate about it sometimes, like a little annoying. Here's the ones where they're tied with the horns on their heads. It's so funny. It makes every time I see it, it just brings a smile to my face. So this is my Friends with Benefits deck, and it is Tarot de Carlotides. Okay, so the next prompt is Love at First Sight, a deck you loved from the start. Okay, it's this one. Tarot of the Cat People. I freaking love this deck. And I can't even tell you why, but when I got it, it just connected with me and it just brought forth something in me that I didn't even know was there. It feels like I've had a past life with this deck. That's how connected I immediately felt to it. It's amazing. I I don't know if anyone else had that connection with it or if it's just me. It blew me out of the water. I I love it. I love everything about it. I'm a huge cat person. I have 3 cats myself and they're my babies. So I mean obviously it resonated with me on that level, right? But there was just something about these people and the cards and the imagery and just the stories behind these people in the little book that comes with it that just, I don't know, it just like sunk into my soul and connected on a level that I was not expecting or ready for. So in Canada, it's not as easy for us to get decks as it is for guys in the States. US Games doesn't actually deliver to Canada. So we have to like, I mean, they might be at like the big box stuff like Amazon or like Indigo, and some metaphysical stores maybe even, but I couldn't just order this off of US Game site. So I ended up finding it at a shop in Etsy that was based in Lithuania. So this deck took months, months and months and months to get to me. And I'm meaning like at least 5 months to get to me. And the one day, and the tracking number didn't work. And the one day I went down to the post office, and lo and behold, there it was. I didn't think I was going to see it. I thought that it was long gone. And luckily, the person I bought it off of wrapped it really good. So it showed up in perfect condition. The minute I opened the box and sat down with it, I was just in love with it. In love with it. I'm still trying to get the book that comes, like the big book that was made afterwards or with it called I believe it's called the Traveler's Report. I'm still trying to get my hands on a copy of that. I don't know. This deck reaches into my soul, and the readings that I get with it is just superior. I don't know. I love it. But I have a really strong connection with vintage decks. I can see why this does that, but I don't know. This is my love at first sight, 100%. Like if my house was on fire, this is the deck I'm running to grab. I mean, yeah, there's a few other ones that I would be, well, let's face it, quite a few other ones that I would be grabbing, as well as my kitty cats. This is one I don't think that I could really honestly exist without. That is my love at first sight, the tarot of the cat people. So the next prompt is One Night Stand, a deck you tried out but moved on from almost immediately. Sometimes you still think about that deck. This deck I didn't move on from immediately. I did give it a fair chance, and I still use it, honestly, from time to time, but I used it, I got it, I used it for a couple weeks, and then I just put it down and haven't really gone back to it. And that is the Trifonti della Luna. I love this deck. It's a great deck. It's a solid reader. I don't have any issues with it that way. It's just, I feel that for some reason, I mean, obviously, probably because of like the creatures that are in it, but it's just like a Halloween deck to me. It's an October deck, so I don't really use it any other time of the year, unfortunately. And because it fell into that for me, I pull it out maybe late September, October to maybe the first couple weeks in November, and then I put it away. But I do think about it, and it does pop into my mind from time to time again throughout the year. I do enjoy it. Like I said, I've gotten some pretty deep, strong readings with it. I feel like it's a for sure thing. It does great readings. It's very solid. However, I just think because of these strange little creatures and different, monsters and things like that in it, I tend to only use it during the fall months, which is okay. I mean, it'll just be that for me, and that's okay. But I do still, like I said, I still think about it. Like these images sometimes just pop into my head. And I do think that it has a sense of humor. Like I think that it's got some, it's kind of funny. But then, there's times when it's not so funny. So I don't know. I got it. I was really excited about getting it, and I'm glad that it's part of my collection. However, it's not as versatile as I thought it was going to be. But it is a great deck, and I really like its color palette. I really like, the different colors and stuff that's going on in it. Kind of has like a medieval-y vibe to it to me. But yeah, so this is my one night stand. The Trifonti della Luna. This is, we were on a break, obviously, from friends, right? So this is the deck you're separated from for any reason. Right now, it's just I'm taking a break from it. I'm doing work with other decks, and that's the only reason why I'm not using this right now. And it is the Forhexa. I love this deck, and it sits by my bedside. So, I mean, it's nice and close to me. I love everything about this deck. And the funny thing was that that surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be what it is. This is a great deck, and it reads really good. I love the colors and the images. I'm not really huge into fairy energy, into fae decks, but I decided I haven't had one in my collection in a long time. I only had a few. And so this one was speaking to me, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to grab this. It had gone on sale, not by much, but a little bit. And I decided I'm gonna grab it. And when it got here, it was an instant connection with it. And I really enjoy my readings with it. I feel like it's super clear. It's very much to the point. Um, and there's layers in this deck. There's a lot going on, and you can just tap into it. The artwork is very beautiful. It's got a lot of layers in it. Oh, look at her. It's such a beautiful card, right? And I don't know, I really enjoy it. But right now, we're taking a break because I was using it so much that I was kind of ignoring everybody else. So I decided to kind of give it a little bit of break and start using the other decks that I was bringing in and buying and deserved my, attention as much as this one did. And so we're on a break, but only for now. Because as soon as it's become spring, I pulled out all my fairy decks and all of my beautiful, vibrant, flowery botanical decks and to suit the season, right? And this one is just sitting there waiting. And I'm waiting. Like, I can't wait. We're going to hang out and we're going to catch up. So that was my We're on a Break. And it's the Forhexa. The next prompt is Marriage Material, a deck that has proven its value to you. Easy. It is the Wild Unknown. Now, I've had this for a long time. I've had it for many years. And when I first bought it, I was at a point in my life where tarot was kind of in and out of it. I wasn't spending time doing tarot as much as I had been in the past. And I was kind of falling into a rut in a way, I guess you would say. And so I decided to grab this deck. I have never seen anything like it at that time. So I bought it and I had a really hard time reading it. And I had a really hard time connecting with it. I tried and tried and tried, but nothing worked. And we weren't jiving. So I put it away. And I put it away. I put it away for years. And I didn't go back to it for a really long time. And then a few years ago, I kept thinking about it and it kept popping into my brain. I haven't looked at it and touched it in such a long time. Like, I haven't even seen if the cards are in okay shape. I haven't touched it. So I grabbed it and I took it out. And I did a quick little reading with it. And it was like, bam. All of a sudden, it just started making sense. And it clicked at a level that I don't think any other deck has clicked for me yet. And it just all of a sudden started making so much sense. And the energy level that this deck comes at you, I just don't think I was ready for it. I wasn't in a place to deal with it. Like, I felt like at the time that I got this, it was too much tarot. And I wasn't there yet. But now I am. So now when I read with this, it just blows my mind. And it has 100% has proven itself to me. And that is why it is my marriage material. The Wild Unknown Tarot. So last but not least is my Happily Ever After deck. Now this one I had a hard time with. It was between two. The Aquarian Tarot being one of them. And then this one here. My Llewellyn. So the happily ever after is your true love in a deck. And as you can see, this one has been used and well loved for many, many, many years. This was the first deck that I was ever able to buy myself. And at the time that these decks were out, there wasn't very many options. Like decks weren't, look how dirty it is. Sorry, excuse me how dirty my deck is. But like this deck has gone to parties. This deck has had alcohol spilt on it. It has had cigarettes put out around it and on top of it. It has had, and I don't drink or smoke anymore, but I did back in the day. It has, it existed and it lived in my purse. Like it literally lived in my purse for years. When I'm still reading to this day, these images pop up in my head. The key phrases or the sentences that are in the book still pop into my brain. And this deck is just, it's everything to me. I've had it for such a long time, and it was the fact that I saved up my money and I was able to buy it for myself. It was my first like real deck, honestly. Like I had other decks, but they were like just the majors. They were just small little weird kits that you could buy at some weird random store. But this was the first true tarot that I actually went out and bought myself. And if you could see, they're so, you can't tell, but they are so like worn and scratched. And they're just, do you hear my Google? Oh my God. Um, they're just, I don't know. This deck means the world to me. It really does. I've kept it in its original form because I'm that type of person. And we've been through it. Me and this deck have gone through a lot together. That is my happily ever after, my true love in a deck. And it is my Llewellyn. And before I go, I want to point out something about this. If I can find it. You can't see. But this deck was originally $29.95. A long time ago, many years ago, like 20 years ago. Maybe not quite 20 years, but it was a long time ago. That's still the price of most, pretty close to the price of most mass market decks still. Just something to think about. This was super expensive. When I bought this for myself, that was a lot of money. And I can remember taking a while to save up the money. And when I got it, I was like, oh my God, that was so much money. I can't believe that I just bought that for myself. And it was like $30 in tax. It's crazy. In Canada, we get charged a lot of money for indie decks because of the exchange rate and customs, like duty fees and like taxes and like all the other stuff. Shipping is usually really expensive. An indie deck, we usually drop around like $60, $70 on an indie deck to even get it. So a mass market deck, being $30, that's still pretty much the price of them. That goes to show you how expensive this was back in the day. This was like a big purchase for me. Yeah, insane, eh? That was a lot of fun and a nice trip down memory lane in a way. Those were the decks that I had in my collection that I was able to fit into these prompts. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I've never done a VR before, so who knows? Maybe there'll be some more in the future. But thanks for watching this. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.